Welcome to another edition of Chef Knife to Go Quick Look Product Reviews. I'm Steve Gamache, and this time what we're looking at is the Zakuri Aogami Super, or AS Nakiri 165mm knife. So this knife has 3 layers in its construction, and that center layer, which is the hard core steel, the cutting steel, the steel is known as Aogami, or blue paper, super reactive high carbon steel. Heat treats around probably, they don't really specify, but I'm going to say it's probably 62 plus, maybe 62, 63, possibly a little higher, depends on the blacksmith's preference. The construction, as I said, is 3 layers, and so on either side of that reactive hard core steel, you've also got a reactive soft iron cladding with a protective finish, a Kudauchi or blacksmith finish on it, or KU finish. And so the entire knife is reactive. There's no stainless or anything on it, so you've got to make sure to keep it dry. Don't let it sit wet. Don't let it sit with product on it for too long, and it'll gain a patina as you go. The weight and dimensions on these are going to vary a little bit because they're hand-hammered and ground. So this is 148 grams or 5.2 ounces. It's about 165 millimeters on the edge, which is pretty much from the back to kind of the useful part of the curve, or about 6.5 inches. Overall length about 12.3 inches, 313 millimeters. This one you can see, it's kind of unique. It's pretty thick coming out of the handle, the tang, but then you can see, boom, it thins down really quick and then stays pretty thin. So I measured it about 4 millimeters, which is pretty thick coming out of the handle, but then halfway down it goes down to 1.5, and then maybe actually comes up a little bit to maybe 1.75. So it's fairly thin on the front half of the blade, and that does give you a little bit of flex to it. Not a ton, but a little bit of flex. The blade height, this is a fairly low Nakiri. It's not a very tall one, so it's about 49 millimeters at the back and at the middle, so it doesn't really grow much in height or lose height. So not a super tall Nakiri, but kind of the middle-low range of height. Handle type is an oval. It's nicely finished, ambidextrous oval, rosewood with a packawood, black packawood, stabilized wood ferrule, and nice fit and finish on the handle. It looks like a pretty tight handle install where the tang goes into the front of the handle. Nicely finished, got a nice feel to it. It's about 3 inches or 75-ish millimeters here where the ferrule meets the rosewood. You've got just enough spot there where the back of the blade, the choil, goes into the neck, and you can almost get your finger in there. If it had a little bit longer gap there, you can get your finger in there better, but you can get your finger in there for a pinch grip. The blade balance point with the rosewood's a little heavier than like hoe wood or something like that, so the handle weight contributes to your balance point and brings it back right about there. So for me, that's just a little bit behind my pinch grip. So this knife has kind of a pretty neutral feel, kind of flickable feel with the pinch grip, probably for most people, but you still got plenty of ground clearance there for cutting board, depending on your grip style. The out of the box edge, I'd say, was 5 out of 10, nothing super fancy, but just kind of an average, decent edge. So here's kind of our beauty shot. So and we'll go with that. So you can see they've got kind of a faux Kasumi finish, a frosted finish here on the blade road where it's ground down from the blade flats. And then you can see the core steel peeking out there and then the actual shiny edge bevel itself. This does have some pressed in kanji here and kind of a fairly smooth, maybe just a little bit of a mottled or what's known as a nishiji or pear skin type finish to it, maybe a little bit of that characteristic, but fairly smooth. On the left side of the blade, as you'd be holding it, you've got the Zakuri name stamped in there. It looks like it didn't quite get stamped all the way towards the back, but then you've got another kanji embossed there as well. And you can see you got a little bit of rustic characteristic to these. The spine is relieved just a little bit on the edges, and so is the choil. The choil, you could probably clean up a little more if you wanted to kind of refine it a little, but it's you know, they kind of knock these out pretty quick. So, but it's straight, and let's see, let's look at the profile on the cutting board for the style of this one. So you can see it's got a nice, pretty smooth profile to it, and you can see it's fairly flat, which is pretty common for this style of blade or the style of knife. So pretty flat. You get maybe just a little bit of belly to it, but not a whole lot. So typical kind of chopper style edge profile, which most Nakiris are. And so it's a good kind of entry-level style hand-hammered all reactive knife, just good solid knife. So this is the Zakuri Aogami Super Nakiri 165 millimeter knife.